August 7th wasn't just another WNBA game. It was pure chaos. Sophie Cunningham didn't just play basketball, she lit a firestorm. In the middle of a blowout loss, she went chest to chest with DeWanna, then turned around and basically called her out on a podcast before dropping one of the most savage Instagram posts the league has ever seen. Fans are split. Some say Sophie is the only one with the guts to tell the truth, while others claim she's an attention seeker dragging her team into drama. But here's the thing. Whether you love her or hate her, Sophie Cunningham just proved she might be the most controversial player in the WNBA right now. And this feud with Bonner, it's personal, it's ugly, and it's far from over. The Phoenix Mercury wasn't happy about Sophie Cunningham's comments, and they obviously used that as motivation against the Fever. Well, Stephanie White, you gotta do what you gotta do. Gee, your friendship with Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner, look, that caused a problem off-season by signing her. First, let's rewind to that August 7th game. The Fever were already facing an uphill battle against the Mercury and tensions were running high. Then, in the middle of the action, Sophie Cunningham and DeWanna Bonner got tangled up. Literally. It wasn't just trash talk, it wasn't just a hard foul. It escalated into a full-on shoving match, with teammates and refs stepping in before it got uglier. Now, if this had been a random scuffle, maybe it doesn't make headlines. But this wasn't random. There's history here. Bonner used to wear the Fever jersey. Cunningham used to be in Phoenix. The fact that the two essentially swapped teams added fuel to the fire, because it's not just two players, it's two organizations with overlapping storylines and plenty of pride. To make matters worse, Phoenix didn't just beat Indiana. They embarrassed them. A 35-point blowout. That made the shoving match feel less like a heat-of-the-moment thing and more like the physical embodiment of years of tension, grudges, and unfinished business. And when Sophie walked off the floor that night, everyone knew this story wasn't done. Enter the Show Me Something podcast, where Sophie Cunningham decided to tell the world exactly what went down. And let me tell you, she did not hold back. She admitted there was a little beef with Bonner and then laid out where it came from. Bonner's exit from the Fever. According to Sophie, when Bonner requested a trade during a losing streak, she didn't even say goodbye to her teammates. She just bounced. Sophie wasn't mad at the trade itself, but that's part of the game. She was mad at what she saw as a lack of professionalism. I still support her, Sophie said, but the professional thing would have been to send a message to your teammates. That's a vintage Sophie right there. She's the type who wears her loyalty on her sleeve, and if she feels disrespected, she's not going to sugarcoat it. What she really did here was highlight a clash of values. For Bonner, it was a business move. For Cunningham, it was personal. And when you combine that with the emotions of competing against each other on the court, it's no wonder things boiled over. 2 days after her podcast confession, Sophie Cunningham proved once again that she cannot and will not stay quiet. I want to set this up. This is what Sophie Cunningham said on her podcast, the Show Me Something podcast. Go subscribe. She said about DeWanna Bonner leaving the Fever, and then we'll get to her comments from yesterday. She jumped on Instagram and posted a phrase that instantly set WNBA Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit on fire. I'm trying to stop being mean, but it's like y'all gotta stop being stupid first. Now think about that for a second. Sophie didn't tag anyone. She didn't write an essay. She didn't even drop an emoji. Just one single line. Sharp, cryptic, and dripping with attitude. And that was enough to ignite a wildfire. Fans immediately started debating who it was aimed at. The majority thought it was directed squarely at DeWanna Bonner, especially given their dust-up just days earlier and Sophie's comments about professionalism on her podcast. But others speculated it might have been aimed at critics, trolls, or even league officials who had fined her before. That's the beauty of a cryptic post. You never know for sure, but it gets everyone talking. Within hours, that post had been screenshotted, shared across social media pages, and even picked up by sports outlets covering the feud. The responses were split right down the middle. Fever fans hyped Sophie up, calling her fearless, unapologetic, and exactly the kind of personality women's basketball needs. Phoenix fans, on the other hand, blasted her as immature, unprofessional, and desperate for attention. Neutral fans, they were just grabbing popcorn because this drama had turned into must-follow content. But here's the bigger point. Sophie knew exactly what she was doing. This wasn't some careless throwaway comment. This was a calculated move to control the narrative. By posting that line, she reminded everyone that she's not just going to take a backseat to Bonner or let critics dictate her reputation. She was putting herself back in the driver's seat of the conversation, and whether you loved it or hated it, you had to respect it. Because in today's sports world, controlling the narrative off the court is just as powerful as controlling the scoreboard on it. Now, let's zoom out for a second, because while everyone is focused on Sophie versus Bonner, the truth is this rivalry runs much deeper. It's Indiana Fever versus Phoenix Mercury. It's history, pride, and even a little bit of betrayal, all rolled into one. Think about the storyline here. Sophie Cunningham cut her teeth with Phoenix before moving to Indiana. DeWanna Bonner used to be a key piece of the Fever before leaving on less than ideal terms. The teams have swapped stars, swapped coaches, and built up this weird web of overlap that guarantees extra tension every time they face off. Sophie even admitted it herself, "I think our teams don't like each other anyway." And you could see it on August 7th. That shoving match between Sophie and Bonner wasn't just about one foul or one possession. It was the boiling point of years of underlying tension. For Phoenix, it was about showing they still run the floor against a young Indiana team trying to rise. For Indiana, it was about proving they weren't afraid of the Mercury's veteran swagger. And for Sophie, it was personal. This rivalry is starting to feel like the kind that defines eras. Every league needs storylines like this, the kind of rivalries where fans circle the date on the calendar months in advance, because they know it's going to be physical, emotional, and dramatic. It's not just basketball, it's theater. And that's what Sophie has tapped into here. By calling out Bonner and by refusing to back down, she's made sure the Fever versus Mercury matchup is no longer just another game. It's a grudge match, and trust me, when these teams meet again, fans are going to tune in not just to see who wins, but to see who throws the first glare, who dishes the hardest foul, and who has the last word. So now comes the million-dollar question. Is Sophie Cunningham's fire helping or hurting the Indiana Fever? On one side, you could argue it's a distraction. The Fever are still fighting for consistency, still missing Caitlin Clark, still trying to lock down a playoff spot. They just got blown out by 35 against Phoenix, and the last thing they need is more drama swirling around the locker room. Critics will say Sophie's Instagram post and podcast antics take the focus off the real issues like defense, rotations, and execution. But on the other side, and I'd argue this is the more important side, Sophie's fire is exactly what the Fever need. Every team has a star scorer, but not every team has an enforcer. Cunningham is that enforcer. She brings toughness, grit, and the kind of energy that says, we're not going to let anyone push us around. If I'm not mistaken, all she said was talking about, the refs need to protect, I'm pretty sure. Was it not for her saying the refs need to protect Caitlin Clark? I'm pretty sure it's what she essentially said, the refs need to protect Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark said, finally someone did it. She basically talked about being the refs need to protect the face of the league. And with Clark sidelined, somebody has to keep that competitive fire burning. This is where Sophie's personality becomes a double weapon. On the court, she's scrappy, aggressive, and not afraid of contact. Off the court, she's bold, unfiltered, and not afraid to speak her mind. Some fans hate it, but others love it. And most importantly, her teammates feed off it. When Sophie's in the fight, the whole team feels tougher. And don't underestimate what this does for the Fever's identity. For years, Indiana was seen as a rebuilding franchise. Young, inexperienced, and easy to overlook. But now, thanks to players like Cunningham, Mitchell, and of course Clark, they've got a swagger, they've got a chip on their shoulder, they've got an edge. And that's the kind of culture that can carry you through adversity. So yes, Sophie Cunningham's post was controversial. Yes, her clash with Bonner will keep stirring debate. But in the bigger picture, this is how stars are made. This is how rivalries are born. And this is how teams transform from underdogs into contenders. If the Fever can harness Sophie's energy, combine it with Clark's star power when she returns, and keep building that chemistry under Stephanie White, Indiana is going to be a nightmare matchup for anyone come playoff time. And you can bet Sophie Cunningham will be right in the middle of it, loud, unapologetic, and impossible to ignore.